50 psychology classics. A new note. Maybe we should start with notes on 50 psychology classics. Enough already. Maybe we should start. Probably we should start with the notes in general. But then I'm a river to my people. To quote Anthony Quinn, his character, the Sheikh of Aqaba or something. No, Aqaba was the point of attack. They were supposed to attack Aqaba, and Anthony Quinn, this Sheikh, was reluctant, and then he was sort of tricked into it by Laurence Olivier and Peter O'Toole, of course. Magnificent, magical there. Lawrence of Arabia, one top 5 movies for me. And I'm laughing because Bell Letter Papers comes to mind. Charles Simmons, and there is an editor there who knows nothing, little, and what he knows, what he thinks he knows is wrong. He talks of Lady Chatterley's Lover by Laurence Olivier. By Laurence of Arabia, it could have been also Olivier, but for him, Lawrence is so bad, confused. Just like there was a confusion there between this Lawrence and Laurence Olivier. Freudian slip. Tricked and said, okay, you're doing all fighting for money. Money, I'm a river to my people. So in the end, he will fall back about with the others. Omar Sharif, the others. Wonderful books among these 50 psychology classics. Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi with Creativity, Not Flow. Flow is one that we should all read. In fact, some of these books should be, maybe would be in the future in the program in high schools or something, because they're so important. So it's so vital. That there was this move at one point related to this. I think also David Cameron mentioned that in the civilized world, in the West, there is an emphasis on GDP per person, but it should be changed, and well-being should be. I mean, happiness index will be necessary, and of course they measure that in the Nordic countries. Denmark was the happiest, and then they changed places. They were only second, and who else? So was it Finland getting the top spot? Anyway, it's up there in the north. In the north, that they're happier. And you have Bhutan. Bhutan is in fact looking at this happiness index, not so much at the GDP, which is interesting. And speaking of that, some of these books will teach people as to how to become happy, how to live better lives. Flow, for instance, look at being in the zone, peak, maximum. And as it happens, one of the myths of happiness, I mentioned in one of the previous notes, that Daniel Gilbert stumbling on happiness. We think we know what makes us happy, but we don't. We have that California myth, Caribbean island, Pacific island. We think if we were only to live not here where it's cold now, but be in Florida, Mar-a-Lago. The idiot Trump now has a subpoena, I understand, to appear before a congressional committee. Last night they had the last public hearing, public session. It showed more video, and made the point that this is a dangerous man. Let's not. So you have those myths, and one would be, um, it was thought people would be, they still think, oh, if when I'm home on the couch watching television, that's no, as measured, as researched and exposed in flow. In fact, people are happiest when they're challenged. And in fact, indeed, challenges meet expectations. When people are, there will be a few conditions for flow, for this maximum experience, for this being in the zone situation. Constant feedback, being in control, challenges are equal with the expectations. For instance, if we're talking of a tennis game, constant feedback. You see the ball into the court, so you know the game is on, and it's going well. Challenges meet expectations. When you play with someone who is at a much lower level than you, there's no fun because he's returning your balls outside into the trees. And the same for you when you're facing not Rafael Nadal, one of the top players, but somebody who is much better than you. Do the same. You can't even reach the corners where he's sending the ball with a speed which is too much for you. So that's not fun. But when it's on the same level, that's much more intense, and there will be a good conversation. It's a wonderful flow situation for people, for a number of people, including myself. Well, the way there were conversations. Now I'm just reduced to this. These fools threatening here with the heads on. That's the reason why we have this level of the notes, and the dislikes which we collect are theirs, not mine. If it weren't for you, that's in the classic, I think I mentioned in many notes, not just in critique psychology classics, Eric Berne, games people play, and that's the most common one we see in couples lives. If it weren't for you, one spouse accusing the other that, well, if it weren't for you, I'd be president of the association, which I was, and it was a disaster in the end. But it turns out that, in fact, and we have some examples. In fact, people choose a partner that they will blame eventually. It's the situation. The woman saying she would love to have these dance lessons, but the husband, no, she in fact she wasn't into that. Okay, maybe the last note. We'll see.